everybody, and welcome back to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will, I'm a D&D sex icon. I just so happen to be with the world's greatest roleplayers tonight to play some more Game of Thrones. In fact, it's the first time we're ever playing Game of Thrones because this is episode 1, session 1 of the War of the Roses. So, my friends, let's find out who will live and who will die, because those are pretty much the only two options when you're playing the Game of Thrones. We have Dreamwisp, Jen, with us tonight. Jen, how's it going, friend?
Oh, good, thanks. How's it going, everybody?
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this ever since we did our session 0 last week, and it turned out to all be about stoats the whole time.
It's true. Stoats are awesome. They are incredibly awesome.
Yep. That's pretty much what we learned. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your character as we go around here as well, because it's been a whole week.
Sure. I am playing Devin Rain. Devin is a young member of the Night's Watch who was caught hanging out, shall we say, with the lady of the house where he was working, and was basically given the option of being executed or sent off to the Night's Watch. And so he took the latter option, and that's where he currently is. So he's about 16, sandy blonde hair, kind of an Eddie Redmayne thing going on.
Nice. Awesome. And he's not fast, but he is Joseph. Joseph, how's it going, my friend?
It's going pretty well. I'm happy to be here.
Good.
I have been able to bring up stoats in so many conversations that I've had since last week's episode. Been educating my friends on them because holy crap, they are. We couldn't have picked a better animal for the house. But I'm Joseph. I'm a little under the weather today. I apologize. I've had some bad allergies getting worked up. I've got a bit of the plague, which is my shameless plug for Turncloak's podcast. I'm playing Cicero McNair, who is the first son of the house, and he's a noble son. He's 28 years old. The picture in the corner there does it justice. He looks pretty much exactly like that. I'm ready to get into this and get some role-playing going. This is exciting stuff.
Hell yeah. And of course, we have Kitty with us tonight. Kitty, how's it going?
Hello. It's going wonderfully. Again, just the general vibe of very excited. Been excited for this roleplay all week. So Kaylee is like a late teens character. She's an apprentice of a blacksmith. Very just bubbly and happy and wanderlust, and just sort of doesn't have a real concept of the world. Wait till it all crashes on her shoulders. I'm really excited to see how her soul gets crushed.
I have many and varied ways to achieve this for you. I'm excited going down that adventure together. Awesome. And of course, we have Mr. Steel Rain with us tonight. Steel, how's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to learn more about Cyril and his many interesting mannerisms.
Yeah, he's got a bunch. He's not exactly what... he's a landed knight. The way I see him is not many people know too much about him. He's fairly new in this region. And he's probably not what you would expect out of a knight, as you'll hopefully will learn as we go through. To give like the visual representation, I decided to adorn myself with all the things I have left over from medieval times. So it basically looks exactly like me. He's a little bit younger than me. He's 27, of course. And he's a Pandora's box, is what I would say.
I cannot wait to open that. Amazing. And last but not least, we have Bird versus Plane of us tonight. Bird, how's it going, my friend?
It's going so well, man. We got done with session 0, and I could not stop thinking about playing this game with these folks. I'm so excited. I'm going to be playing Septon Birch. He is a middle-aged man, bald head, scraggly beard. So I saw Steele's amazing cosplay and whipped together this really dinky last-minute one with my stole and my white robes to get the visual going on. And he is a god-sworn Septon of the one true god, the 7 in 1. And he's up in the northern lands, so he's not exactly the most popular dude.
Yes, Septon Birch is having a bit of a troubling time trying to convince these the natives of the north that their old gods are not the ones that should be followed anymore. But perhaps he has a few friends whom he's at least convincing a little bit that maybe the seven aren't so bad, and that's pretty much a win-win, except in Birch's book. So before we start today's game, a couple of things to remind you guys of our, of course, that we're here today, sponsored by FancyGrounds.com, our virtual tabletop of choice. You guys can go to FancyGrounds.com, play your own virtual tabletop games of D&D, Game of Thrones, whatever you so please, and you can try out their demo version for free. WhalingGames.co.uk are the go-to destination of choice for your printed minis, your Warhammer minis, your board games, your tabletop games, all at up to 20% off the retail value, so definitely go and check those guys out. And last but not least, Tabletop Loot provide incredible dice for sale, and each game, at the end of each session, we give away a set of dice to you guys in the chat. All you have to do is be around at the end of the game, and you'll be in for a chance to win. For those of you new to the channel, you guys can interact with today's game as well there in the audience. If you haven't retweeted this tweet, in fact, when we hit 30 followers, we've already smashed through a viewer decision. You guys get to decide something which happens next in the game. I, as your dungeon master, will ask you guys a question, such as what item do they find, what NPC do they run across, and you guys will provide some answers. We'll vote on them, and the most popular decision will actually affect and happen in our game, and we have to figure out how to deal with it. Last but not least, you can donate to affect the game as well by giving players nat 1s, nat 20s, wild magic surges, and so much worse. So check that out there. In fact, the party have already been gifted magic items to begin today's game by Mr. Pokey, which I will get to in just a few minutes' time. I have a couple of ideas to bring in some cool items for you guys, because you're going to need it where you guys are going. Now, last week we did a session 0. Highly recommend you go back and watch that if you haven't yet. But here's the quick précis. Our characters here are all members of a noble house known as the McNair household. Now, the McNairs are descended from barbarians, scandal, and political intrigue and defeats. By the rest of the noble houses in the north, in which they're a part of, they are not considered real nobles. Instead, they're looked down upon by their neighbors and considered to be not from pure blood. Now, blood is very important in the world that we're in, and they're not truly descended from anyone noble. Instead, they come from a line of barbarians turned into these knights who rule over the McNair lands. They own a small hall from which their town is based around, along with a mountain range, a river which leads outwards into the rest of the north. Now, the one thing that's very important about this river for the McNairs is that that's how they do all of their trade. Their fishing and their lumber business all flows down the last river. Now, this would normally be a good thing for a noble house. A lot of money would be coming from this trade. Unfortunately for them, however, the rival household known as the Blackwoods, whom they have a checkered past with the McNairs, after having tried to betray them in the past, having been failed doing that, and now they found themselves caught in a 100-year trade agreement by which all of their lumber and all of their fish supplies are heavily taxed by the Blackwoods because they own the ports down the last river, basically. Now, we find the McNair household in this point of time as being fairly destitute, poor, small in population, but fiercely loyal to the house that they have, with the banner of the Stoat, which represents their fierce but cunning nature. And I think did we finish the words? There was something like, "We hold our home." What were the final house words of House McNair?
I believe what we decided on was the original words were, "Home is what we hold, and we hold our home." But when we became an official family, it was shortened to, "We hold our home."
I like it. So "We hold our home" is the real kind of thrust of what House McNair are about, and it's really about keeping their lands and probably winning back their name somewhat. Each of our party members here are part of that household in some regard. Cicero McNair is the first son and heir to the McNair household. When his father, Brian McNair, dies, which he will at some point because winter is coming, Cicero will have to rule over these lands. Kaylee Tarbeck is Cicero's friend and the daughter of the blacksmith who kind of serves this family. Cyril Price is the landed knight and sort of sworn knight of the McNairs, which means that he has been given a small plot of land, probably a farmstead or something of the like, and some people to rule over, in exchange for his sword for previous deeds done in assistance to House McNair. So when they call the banners, Cyril's got to come running. And Septon Birch is new to the household because he has sort of just arrived from King's Landing on a mission from the Seven, the new gods of King Robert Baratheon, who rules from King's Landing, and he's been sent on a missionary objective to convince some of these Northerners that the old gods aren't the ones to be followed. Now, our other character, Devon Rain, we're not sure how yet is going to be involved in the story of the McNairs, but that will quickly become clear to us as we begin today's game. As a quick reminder, we begin our story at the beginning of A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, which means that this is just before, canonically, the death of Jon Arryn. King Robert Baratheon still rules from King's Landing. The events of A Game of Thrones have not yet happened. Bran hasn't been thrown from the tower, etc., etc. And we're not running in any kind of canonical sense. So I hold full rights to destroy George R.R. Martin's works as I so desire. We're going to begin today's game. Are you guys ready? We're excited?
I'm so ready.
So
Hell
all right,
yes.
Let's do this thing, my friends. And let's start off in somewhere far away from the McNair household, far away from the north, further upwards, ever northwards to the Wall. Now, the Wall is this ancient edifice of ice, which was formed thousands of years ago to protect the North from an ancient threat which lies beyond, and of course the hordes of wildlings that infest the forests north of Castle Black. It's an unforgiving and dread place to exist, high upon this wall of Castle Black, where we begin our story, with scores of men who are draped in these dark woolen cloaks to protect them from the fierce biting wind that whistles across the wall itself. Castle Black is a construction of stone and wood which finds its way up to the 100 feet high wall upon which these soldiers and worse lie. The Night's Watch, their watch will not be over until they are dead, because they must watch against the wildlings that are going to constantly trying to find their way down to cooler and warmer lands where there is more prosperous folk to be found. However, these Night's Watch are here to stop that, and one such member, as the camera pans along this wall, we see scores of these well-armed and perhaps well-trained vagabonds, thieves, former rapists, former murderers, the worst kinds of people, and those noble enough to take up the cause and take the Black themselves to live upon this wall. We also find a younger lad by the name of Devon Rain. Jen, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what Devon looks like when we find him up on the wall on watch? At this point, it's probably the evening time.
So Devon is a little bit gangly, still in that sort of awkward mid to late teen years. He's got sandy blonde hair, green eyes, and is a little bit ill at ease in his body, still just not quite settled into himself yet. He's also not so used to the cold yet. The north is very, very cold, and Devon is from further south, so the cold is a little bit different and is quite an adjustment.
Indeed, the winds up here are enough to kill a man not wearing one of the heavy woolen cloaks that the stewards of the Night's Watch give out to the new recruits who train under the Master at Arms, Sir Alistair Thorne. and the head of the Ranger Division, Benjamin Stark, who actually recruited Devon to this cause and brought you here. It's a dour and grim evening on the wall. There is little chatter to be had amongst the other members of the Night's Watch, and indeed it's often best to stay away from them because people do go missing on the Night's Watch, or worse, over the side of the wall for if you find yourself in the wrong company. After all, these people are made up of not necessarily the most noble types, and it's best to be careful. The wall is a little bit like being in a prison at any given time, because there are fights that could break out, people who could be killed, but also the guards, the leaders of the Night's Watch who rule over and bring in any kind of order if it looks like there is some disorder, with harsh words, cracks of the fist, and worse if needed for those who would look to desert the Night's Watch. Perhaps you have a friend or two up here. You recognize one of the younger lads. He's been here for a lot less time than you have. His name is Rohar. He's from somewhere in the Westerlands, and this cold does not suit him. He's coming over in these heavy woolen cloaks, and he says, Devon?
Yes.
It's so cold up here.
It is. Like some tea.
Oh,
Can I hand him
yes,
a cup of
please.
tea?
His teeth are chattering as he takes the mug, and the steaming liquid pours into his mouth. That's better. The Rangers wanted to see you. Lord Benjamin Stark, he wanted to meet with you.
All right, I'll go at once. Thank you.
I'm to relieve you of your duties.
All right, keep warm. And I hand him a flask.
Yeah, he cups it as though it's his lifeblood, and as you make the long descent down from the wall on this contraption of wood, which brings you up and down from this huge construction, you'll find yourself in Castle Black. Now, the winds here are a whole lot better than previously, and the town itself is far more alive than the grim silence of the wall. People training in the yard, even at this evening. Sir Alistair Thorne is a stickler with the training regimen. There's even blacksmithing occurring here as well. People going to and fro on errands. So you walk past many members of the Night's Watch that you'd recognize before reaching Benjamin Stark's quarters. He keeps his own quarters here. He's of enough kind of renown and status amongst the Night's Watch to have his own hold, and two members of the Night's Watch guard his stead at any given time. They grunt to you and open the door so that you can meet Benjamin Stark, who's actually inside. He turns to meet you with something of a grim smile. He's got long hair and the look on his face of someone who's seen far more than his age might imply. It's pretty beaten, scarred face, and of course the black, drab garb of the Night's Watch. Yeah, he says, "Come in, Devon. Take a seat."
And I sit, warming my hands now that I'm inside.
How was your watch?
Cold. As always.
Aye. Well, I wanted to meet with you because I'm going to be heading southwards, and I wanted to know if you wanted to come with me.
Of course, I'll do as you command.
My brother requests my presence, and I'm not one to leave him waiting. But I have another mission as well, to recruit as many new members of the Night's Watch as possible while I'm down in the north. Now, I know of your particular circumstances. It's an opportunity for you to
sit a little uncomfortably in my chair.
Yeah, he seems to recognize that this is uncomfortable for you, for him as well. With your particular circumstances, people go missing in the north. It's a big place. And certainly, I'm not one to hunt a young lad like you down for deserting the Night's Watch.
Understood. When would we be leaving?
At dawn. There's no time to be wasted. It's a long ride down there. We'll be stopping
All right.
off not far from the McNair lands. Perhaps you could visit.
Will we?
Say that again.
Will we?
Hmm.
Oh.
Well,
And
Thank you for
Devin
your
sort of gets
service.
lost in thought.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sir.
You're a good lad. Now, be on your way. That poor kid Roja is going to freeze his balls off up there.
We will. I'll bring him another mug.
He nods, and with a kindness in his eyes, places a hand upon your shoulder as you go. Benjamin Stark has always been nice to you, and despite many of the other people in the wall not caring. He knows your particular circumstances, at least to some degree. He hasn't asked, and he doesn't want to know, but there's an understanding there that he's going to help you out. So, Devon, you relieve young Rohar on the wall, and get back up there with another flask for him. And at dawn, prepare to leave for the north,
Okay.
while at the same time heading southwards with Benjamin Stark's ranging party. Now, is there anything particular you'd like to do before you leave the wall in Castle Black?
I will make sure that I have noted down all of the people that seem to be of importance, as well as the people who might be coming up in the ranks there. So folks that might become players who are not quite players yet. And any information that I could have gathered on the Blackwood, anything that the Night's Watch might know about them. And I will file that away as I do with my other important belongings.
Yes. Word is slow to travel up to the wall. Indeed, sometimes it goes whole months before or years before word reaches your ears here. But you will have heard that the Blackwood family, as they are close north enough to the wall to be on good terms with the Night's Watch, are certainly always sending the thieves and the vagabonds they find their way up here. So there are plenty of people, at least from that territory that they own, who may have known the Blackwood family. They are richer and more powerful than ever, and it's said that their influence reaches even as far down to the Dreadforts, and that they are held in high regard by Lord Roose Bolton, who flies the symbol of the flayed man. They are now bowed, of course, to the Starks of Winterfell, but the Boltons have quite a dread reputation.
Seems fitting. I will go back up to Roha and let him know that I am leaving in the morning. And
He
that I
is,
won't
yeah. He's going to be very sad to see you go because you're probably one of his only friends, but he's looking forward to your return because he's under the understanding that you will be back in the next few weeks, maybe months, depending on how long Benjamin Stark's mission will take. The next morning, you and 5 other members of the Night's Watch, including Benjamin Stark, will head southwards out of the huge iron gates of Castle Black, away from the wall and into the relatively warmer lands of the north back to the McNair household. Now, we're going to move ahead in time several weeks and find ourselves in McNair Hall, which is the stead and the town in which the McNairs rule from. A river cuts across it. Behind it lies the mountains, and it's on top of a hill. I think the image we used before was Edoras in Rohan. This pretty... it's come from a barbaric origin. This place looks like it was, built by barbarians, but it has been modified over the centuries to look more like a traditional Westerosi stead. It's not a castle by any means, but it's a motte and bailey hall, which is defensible with a palisade wall on the outer side and the town which runs down from it, with the small population but loyal members of those who the McNairs protect. We're going to start with Cicero here. Cicero, there is a knock on your door. It's a pretty loud thump, and it's the morning. Morning just like any other here, really. There's nothing special about this day as far as you're aware.
Cicero gets up and goes to the door. Hey.
You see the gruff-looking face of Andoran. Andoran is the master-at-arms of the McNair household, and a man in his 40s, but really closer to his 50s, with this salt and pepper beard, big kind of breastplate and hauberk on at all times, and a heavy two-handed sword, either in his hands or on his back at any given moment. He is pretty much your sort of caretaker when your father, Brian McNair, is Sir Brian rather, is unable to look after you, and he kind of grunts and says, "Boy, much to be done today."
Right, what exactly needs to be attended to?
There's come with me, you'll see. And he turns on his point and starts marching down the corridor with the sound of his armor clinking behind him.
Cicero kind of gives him a shrug and goes and retrieves his cape and just kind of puts it over his left shoulder and follows him out the door down the hall.
You know, yes, Andoran to be the most no-nonsense human that you've probably ever come across. His training of the garrison units and the cavalry contingent is a legend amongst your household, and he is the survivor and master of several small skirmishes against bandits in the area. He's earned himself quite a reputation amongst this land as someone who is honorable, but that doesn't mean he's one for conversation. He grunts at several of the other servants who run through this household. You'll recognize the handmaidens and the like who are currently missing their maiden, Valian McNair, your sister, who has gone missing for quite some time. But nonetheless, these handmaidens are around here. They're waiting for her return, and they giggle at you as you are the heir apparent to this place, and probably the heartthrob of many a handmaiden across the north, at least perhaps here amongst the McNairs, where you're considered to be someone, at least. When you go further out north, you're probably considered to be something of a hillbilly amongst the other Westerosi lords. But you're led into the chamber, the large chamber, and this is where your father, Sir Brian, holds meetings with the common folk. Every day they will come and petition to him. There's a long line outside his hall where petitioners will come and tell him of their latest troubles and woes. This is also a court of law, this throne, not really a throne, but this large chair where Sir Brian rules from, is where the kind of day-to-day business is done. So if someone's had a chicken which has been poached, or if someone's farm is having a particularly poor yield and they need money or grain, this is where they come to petition your father. And where many a time you too have sat to answer the needs of these common folk who are often belligerent, but nonetheless, this is your sworn duty and future sworn duty as their lord. You see Sir Brian is here, your father. He's an older gentleman, probably deep in his 50s, closer to 60s, who wears a long sort of cape, which keeps him warm, this long woolen cloak, which keeps him warm in this wintry sort of environment that we find the north in. And I think Theoden is the closest sort of character that he'd look like. Bernard Hill with the goatee and the kind of thrown back golden locks of hair, but that haggard look upon his expression where he's been ground down by the Blackwoods. And you have personally seen this happen over the course of the 20 years or so that you've been alive, of more and more trade agreements and worse deals getting done to the point where your family have become destitute. He doesn't wear any kind of like embroidery or on his clothing. There's no real rings. He's got like one simple like wedding band ring on his finger, but nothing of any great wealth upon him. And the hall itself is nothing more than like a mud floor which has like been tiled a little bit, maybe with some wooden slats, that kind of thing. It smells pretty earthy in here. Andoran leads you up to him, and your father looks at you and says, "Oh boy, good. There's something I wanted you to see today, Cicero. Would you walk with me for a while?"
Yes, Father.
He grabs your shoulder and starts walking you along. During this, we have like a panning shot of the McNair stead, where we see the simple folk of this land. Who there's a marketplace where much of it's haggling going on, vendors screaming and shouting at one another, the common folk throwing their pails of waste and buckets of water around through the pretty simple sewage system which is happening right now in this place. The earthy smells of farmland and farming are abound, and you can look out from this point on the hilltop into the woods of the stead, which are often patrolled by your scouts and guerrilla warriors who protect the home, basically, and look for any invading forces. Not that you're at war, but banditry is rife in this area. So the people here are poor and only feel protected by being as close as they can be to the McNair Hall. As you walk with your father, people will come up and petition him personally, using this as an opportunity to ambush him for their various needs and the like. Or they will simply come to kiss his ring for good luck, or yourself. Or have a child who's newborn that they wish to be blessed by the household and by the old gods, whom your father pays homage. But he will stand and listen to them. He's the kind of person that always pays attention to the small folk and apologizes again for the terrible trade deals that they're involved in and the lack of wealth, and he wishes he could do more, etc., etc. Eventually, you'll break away onto the palisade walls, and he turns to you and says, "Son, well, this is not an easy conversation to have, but it is one which I must have with you. Now, look out here, upon these lands, upon these people that we protect. You and I both know that I am old, and I will not live to see many more summers and springs. By the old gods, I hope that I do not live to see winter. And in my stead, it will be your place to rule over these people and to face the hardships that our house have ever faced. Our reputation is not one to be loved by many others, and indeed, I have made no bones about the fact that the Blackwoods have ever been our rivals and have taken advantage of our good-hearted nature and the cunning ways of our ancestors. I have tried my best over the years that I have ruled here to make a difference, to make the people feel at home, safe, and to bring some prosperity to them, though I fear I have failed. Perhaps younger, fresher minds will prevail. We in Andoran, we have fought many battles together and skirmishes, but the one battle that we have ever lost is the political one. How we are seen, how we deal in trade agreements and the like, and I only hope that your mind is sharper than mine was. Here's what I wish for you, son. I wish for you to marry a good woman who you love, and one who will bring candor and insight to your rule. You may be brash and hot-headed, and that is where we must look to our ladies to bring us clarity, where we may raise our swords against those who would raise them against us. And I wish for you to find a way to bring our people safety and wealth as well. Now, that is a great deal of responsibility, but it is yours to have. And, well, it is not all bad. Something I'd like you to see. And he doesn't really give you the opportunity to reply. This is clearly something that he's wanted to just get off his chest for a long time. You and your father, while being close, this isn't the kind of conversation that you have every day, where it's like, I'm going to die, and I'm going to give everything to you, and I want you to marry, and here's your whole life laid out for you, basically, that you're going to live. But he kind of presses onwards, and he takes you to the blacksmiths, where the Tarbeck family live. Graham Tarbeck is the house blacksmith and father of Kaylee, who is your friend. He's pretty about in his 50s as well, but still rippling with muscle. He's got that was a bodybuilder kind of look about him and has always stayed in shape because he's a blacksmith. But he's kind of old, right? And he's just like, smacking away at this sword, finishing off what looks to be a very fine piece indeed. And Kaylee, you were there as well. As you see Sir Brian and Cicero arriving, what does Kaylee look like?
So Kaylee is, I wouldn't say she's tall. She's probably about average height. Not lean, just from doing all the work. Like she has a bit of bulk builder. She's not like, like set. But she does have a little bit of definition on her body just from working with her father and carrying things around. Times are hard, but they're not starving. And then she's got long her hair back in a long braid that's been tied up at the top of her head. And she's a bit grimy. She has freckles across her face. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's dirt or if it's just the freckles, just from working in the shop and the soot and everything that sort of goes around. So I'd assume as they come up, she probably set herself up and sort of smudge some bit off her cheeks and brush her hair down.
Yes, Lord Brian kind of comes over. He's, you've met him before. You've certainly met him before. But he's kind of the scary dad of your best friend. Who, you have interactions when you go around his house, but, they're kind of awkward. You probably have never, eaten dinner with this guy. He's a nice man, but he's also got that slightly intimidating, he's a knight and has a fair amount of power around here, kind of essence to him. He kind of exudes, I guess, a little bit of power. And he says, he goes and clasps in the traditional northern handshake, which is more of an arm shake, with your father, Graham. And he says, Graham, good to see you. Good to see you. And your daughter, Kaylee, isn't it?
Yes, Lord. Kaylee, yes.
Pleasure to meet you. I believe that you have already become fairly well acquainted with my son. Is that true?
She sort of shifts, nervous about where this is going, and sense of has she done something wrong, I suppose you could say that, yes, a few times, over the years, quite a few dozens.
Practice training with swords and bows and the like in the Godswood, isn't it?
suppose if you could send to, me beating him about training, yes,
Well,
Okay, of course.
she certainly has your spirit, Graham, and your father chuckles grimly at the idea of you being an adventurer, or being anything but like a blacksmith. Because for your father, this is pretty much like he was a bit of a soldier, friends with Sir Brian, and then like settled down into blacksmithing. So this is his like safe bet for you as well. Like no adventure, no silliness, just blacksmith for the lord of the manor, and everything will be fine for the rest of your life, right? That's pretty much your father's outlook on life for you. And but Sir Brian smiles. I see. Well, I'm sure that you will be a good friend of his when he finds himself a suitable young bride. And he kind of like clasps Cicero's shoulder with like a little bit of pressure, like, which is your father's, not her, right? Kind of clasp as he's aware of like there's like friendship there, but he's got his sights set on probably like a minor noble lady would be someone that you would marry in your father's mind. But anyway, to the business at hand, Graham, it looks like a fine piece. And Graham Tarbeck finishes the slight sort of embroidery along the blade that he's finished, and he hands it kind of hilt first towards you, Cicero. Now, it's the weapon that you've been asking for forever. We talked a little bit in session 0 before about you having a blade, more like a rapier, which is from across the narrow sea, that kind of design. Northerners prefer, 6 feet of like solid steel, and that's pretty much all you need to kill a man. Whereas the fighting styles of the Bravosi are far more delicate and intricate in nature. And that is essentially what you have here. That Graham Tarbeck hands over towards you is this fine, almost as good as like a castle forged weapon, which is a rapier. And he kind of crosses his arms, says, "Never made nothing like that before, so hopefully it works."
Cicero, excuse me. Cicero reaches out with his right hand and takes the sword and just kind of checks its balance. He looks over the hilt, swings it a couple of times, and just executes some basic moves. I'm assuming it feels great.
The balance is perfect on the blade. This is as probably one of Graham's finest pieces of work, and indeed rivals your father's own sword, which was forged 20 years ago or so, but is a family heirloom. Is your father's blade, which is referred to as McNair's blade. It's not actually McNair's blade because McNair was like 200 years ago, but it's like this design of the blade is reforged every generation. And in the kind of rivulets of the blade, and on the hilt, that kind of rounded clasp hilt that rapiers will have, it has the symbol of House McNair. And your father kind of smiles as he sees you have it and says, "Now you have your own McNair's blade for handing down into the next generation. Thank you, Graham. Fine sword."
This is beautiful work. Very fortunate to have it. You've always served me well. Your skills are unparalleled.
Graham nods. He knows that his work is good. And looks to Kaylee and says, "She's going to have a tough job sounding up to that. But you never know, girl. Give her 20 years to be able to do something like that." Oh, you're muted, Kitty.
Perhaps you'd be a bit surprised or something, me trained by my dad, The younger a bit to be, a bit more sharp, take things on a bit more quickly. Perhaps I could show you a bit sooner. 20 years is a long time, sir.
So Brian nods and says, "Aye, that is the spirit, girl, and the topic of my conversation with young Cicero here today. Bringing in the new from the old, like us, Graham. But on that note, I would like you all to be at the hall tonight for a small feast. Sir Benjamin Stark will be coming here with his division of the Night's Watch, and, well, he may not be a lord anymore, but a Stark is a Stark. And we need to make a good impression, because his word carries weight. His brother Eddard trusts his words greatly. And, well, we need to be good hosts. They'll no doubt need some new recruits for the Night's Watch. It's ever why Benja never visits. But, perhaps to be an opportunity for you to test your skills, Cicero, as the new lord of this place. Welcoming guests is a very important part of the lord's work."
Very well. Sounds like a formality that does need to be approached.
Indeed.
What you need me to do, Father, I shall do
For
it.
this matter, I have also, and he gives Graham a bit of a sly look, which, imitates that of a stoat or a ferret's kind of sly wink. I have invited several other potential ladies to this feast tonight, who I think you may find a great deal of interest in conversing with, Cicero. From neighboring towns and steads and the like, all good choices. Perhaps friendship will be struck.
Cicero smiled slightly and just as we shall see. Romance can be a bit of a distraction in times of strife, but his father has informed me it's always good to have a second opinion on
Yes.
important matters.
He clasps his shoulder and he says, "The love of a good woman is not something to be overlooked, my son."
True enough.
He nods his head towards Graham and Kaylee and says, "I would love for the both of you to be in attendance as well for this masterful work you have done for our family."
I'll be sure to bathe, my lord.
Good. Now I have some business to attend to. I'll leave you to it and see you in the evening. And he heads back to the hall, grumbling something about bathing himself. Meanwhile, Sir Cyril Price, describe to us a little bit about what your lands look like. Now, you probably have some kind of farmstead yourself because you are a landed knight, but it's unlikely that you'd have like a whole town to yourself. Maybe a small village is formed up. But what does Cyril's lands look like?
Cyril's lands are fairly Spartan. Not that he doesn't get along with people. People don't understand him quite well. Mm-hmm. He has his loyal Squire Ronard, young boy, who he adores him. There's sort of a well-maintained farm that's kept by some serfs, and a somewhat haphazardly fortified wooden home that sort of dominates the very small little huts that are around the outskirts of the town where the serfs live. But he definitely he keeps people at arm's length, minus his squire, who he keeps around. But and it also it's a little bit higher than most farms in its altitude. A lot of water runoff would be going down into the fields, but everything would stay away from the house.
Cool. So, yeah, we come across this little farmstead, and I'm almost seeing this place a little bit like Beorn's Hold from The Lord of the Rings, like this big sort of hut which has been fortified, and there's probably a few villagers going to and fro by the river here, which joins up to the main river, which cuts across most of this northern territory. And there's a knock on your barn door, and this you instantly recognize this knock, which is of your Squire, Squire Roynard. He's a young lad with dusty, kind of sandy hair, and he just loves everything about knights. He's swept up in that sort of that romantic ideal of knighthood and honor and the code to which you've sworn your service and your swords to. So he is up at the crack of dawn, and he's like, Sir Cyril, I'm here.
So, haphazardly, throwing the bed covers off of me, of which I've slept in my armor from the night before, I make my way down the stairs towards the front door, opening the peephole and still asking, who goes there?
It's the single most uncomfortable thing, the way to sleep is how Sir Cyril sleeps. I love it. The boy kind of looks up at you and he's like, oh, it's me, Sir Cyril. It's Squire Roynard. He's got like breakfast on a tray.
I close the peephole with some force and begin to undo 3 separate, very loud locks and finally a chain to open the double-layered door to allow the boy in.
Yeah, it swings open with a loud clank, and he kind of bustles into your, home and like places the food upon the table. It's a simple fare of bread and cheese and probably some watered down ale because water is not safe to drink. And he says, and there's one other thing, Sir Cyril. He rummages into a pocket and gets out a letter which has been sealed with the McNair family seal. He shoves it towards you. I got this for you.
Ah, very well. Read it to me.
Okay. He kind of opens it up.
Wait. I need to sit. So I move over to the chair, the largest constructed haphazardly of wood. Everything is very Spartan. And I begin to pour myself the ale that he has in the cup into a separate cup, which is my cup, that I've had inside my kitchen.
Yes.
You may continue.
It's about this point that you remember that Squire Roynard can't read very well, but many people in this time of completely illiterate. Reading is like an aristocracy level of thing that you would ever need to do. But he kind of gets it. He's trying really hard with his words. There's like an old man in the village who's like teaching him it, and he's like, "You are invaded. You are invaded to." Doesn't make any sense. You are
What did the person who gave you the letter say?
They said to give this to you.
That was all.
They said it was very important, and I shouldn't read this before I give it to you. That's why they said the seal, they said, because remember that last time when I got one of the letters and I read it out beforehand and I got really confused and walked all the way down to King's Landing, but you stopped me before I got all the way there?
I do. And what did you learn?
Words are hard.
Yes, hand me the letter.
He hands you the letter. It's an invitation to a feast at the McNair Hall, and you are to be a feast is the most knightly thing to go to, because you are an honored guest at the McNair house, because through determination or just through sheer luck, you are a landed knight in the McNair households, and this is an invitation to which it's probably a fun event to go to because it's just get drunk and eat food. But there is also an implied level of you have to attend this event.
Very well. Boy, This is an invitation inviting me to an event this evening. Tell me,
Oh,
what
an invasion?
weather?
Why would they invite you to an invasion?
An event, not an invasion. A
Oh.
party of drink and revelry.
A nightly feast?
It will take place at night.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, I'll get your best. You know what? I'm gonna shine up your armor real good, and I'll bring in the
Wait.
good horse, not the.
What is the weather?
Let me check. He goes outside, and sunny, with an easterly wind. Yep, easterly.
Are there clouds?
Yep, couple of clouds up there.
Are they white or are they dark?
Kind of gray-ish.
Very well. I will need you to saddle me my fastest horse.
Okay. We'll go get Ruby, and he runs off and starts getting the horse ready for you. Is there anything else you do in preparation before you mount up?
Yes. I would change my boots to the tallest ones I have.
You have some very tall boots.
Very tall. Well over the knee.
Yeah,
Wow.
thigh highs. You strap on the thigh highs. In fact, it's probably Squire Reinhard who needs to help strap those in just to contain your thighs.
Yes, there would be belts that would go around the very top of the boot, and I would instruct the boy to make it tight but not a tourniquet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He doesn't know how to do a tourniquet, he explains to you, so that'll be easy for him. He straps you in, saddles your horse, and mounts nothing more than a pony to accompany you. He also has a spear with him, which is carried in like a part of the saddle, which is kind of strapped across his waist to hold the spear, which has your own like heraldry upon. And it's way too big and heavy for him. He has to hold like both hands to like keep it from falling off. Are
Excellent.
you ready, Sir Cyril?
Yes, I am ready. Are you ready?
Yes, I love feasts. I barely ever get to go to them because, when I drink, I get really aggressive.
Boy, you are putting the feast before the horse. We have yet to leave. What is the first thing about horsemanship you, as a junior knight, must know?
Always be prepared.
Very close. I'll take it. Boy,
Yes.
did you bring a weapon?
Oh, no, but my fists are a weapon if I drink enough ale.
Very well. Dismount your horse and go get a weapon.
Sir, yes, sir. He runs off until he finds a weapon, which is like basically a cudgel, like a piece of wood which he's found, and he kind of comes back grinning with it. This'll do, right?
Ah, wise decision. It is not wise for a squire to bring a blade into a feast hall. Very astute.
He kind of puffs himself up. Yeah, cool. All right, let's. I think I'm ready now.
Very well. We will ride at a working canter. You know what that is, do you not?
Yes.
Very well. And I kick my horse and I just take off like a shot.
He's like immediately, he's like flying halfway off the saddle, trying to keep the spear in check as he's riding and trying to keep up. But yeah, it's terrible. He falls like 10 times on the way to the McNair Hall.
Boy, you will never be a knight if you cannot stay on your horse. Get
Yes,
back
sir.
onto the horse. Have you tightened the girth strap of your horse?
The girth. Yep. He like starts just attacking the saddle with his arms and flails at it until eventually he kind of gets into some kind of steady, canter. But he's probably broken a couple of bones along the way doing so, because falling off a horse is a really painful thing to do, especially in some kind of armor. But yeah, you guys will make it to the hall. It's about evening time when you reach the hall. You see the McNair banner of the Stoat flying high above the hall atop this hilltop Mott and Bailey castle as you approach, and you're welcomed in with some reverence by the garrison of the McNairs, who all kind of recognize the heraldry, recognize your status within the house, and won't even heckle you and your squire as you approach. Quite the intimidating figure in your thigh-high boots, riding up to the keep. The master of horse will quickly get your horses and stable them. And it seems like several people are going into the hall at this point. You've come at just the right time where people are starting to get into the hall, and you can hear the sounds of music and revelry from within, but the party isn't yet truly underway. So you and Squire Roynard sort of dismount, and the Squire's like, "So do we just go straight in? I mean, what do we do?"
Boy, first, we must observe. You must always know your surroundings in case there is an attack. Tell me, what do you see?
I see the hall, and people are going inside. But there could be an ambush inside, because we can't see inside. And there are people with swords. I think they might be the garrison here, and they seem kind of friendly, but...
And how can you tell they are the garrison here?
Because they're wearing the family symbols and heraldry.
Very good. Continue.
And there's a fat kind of man with a beard going in. Hey! He waves over at Septon Birch.
Good morning, young man. Good morning. Mother bless you this day. Mother bless you.
What?
The mother. May she bless you. The mother? I've been talking about her for quite...
I don't have a
blessed
mother.
Today, young man.
No, she died many, many summers ago. But that's when Sir Cyril took me into his service.
Yes. Yes.
Isn't that right, Sir Cyril?
Boy, how many mothers do you have?
None. Anymore? One?
I see. This, then, could be a trap. He might be trying to seduce you.
Seduce,
is that what you're trying to do?
No, dear boy, no. No, boy,
Because
no.
I've never been with a woman before. And so Cyril says that I'm not
seduce you
likely
in
to
that
anytime
way,
soon.
boy. He might be trying to placate your weaker moments with your mother's death, saying that maybe he's communicating with your mother. Do not trust him yet.
Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm sorry, you must be mistaken. The seven do not work that way. I am not some sort of one who convenes with the souls of those past. I merely grant you a wondrous day today. It is a pleasure to see you both.
Boy, you have 7 mothers.
This is news to me. But I've got one hell of a family reunion coming up, if that's the case.
We're getting closer, and I will take that.
Okay, well, nice to meet you. My name is Squire Roynard, and this is Sir Cyril Price.
Oh, Sir Price, I've heard much about you. Septon
Where?
Birch.
What do you mean? What do you mean, surprise? My apologies.
This is not your name.
You said my code word.
Oh, yes, that's the code word.
When I lay in ambush, instead of jumping out at my foe and yelling, surprise, I yell surprise, so I both am witty and terrifying at the same time.
It's really good. It confuses me a lot, though.
You are not alone in this, my dear boy.
Well,
When you are
guess
fighting
less.
battles, you must fight both on the field of battle and in your opponent's mind. And with that, I just walk by everybody and go into the feast hall.
amazing. Inside the mead hall of McNair, of the McNair kind of feast, you will see that there is there's a bard playing great songs. It's more like a band, really, is playing right now in the hall itself. You will recognize Sir Brian McNair, who is seated at the kind of head of the table. There are several seats beside him, one of which his son, Cicero, who you may not have seen in several years, is sitting, but you recognize him by similar sort of looks and being so close to him. At his side sits his wife, on his other side. And there are many other sort of minor nobles and dignitaries and knights that you might recognize from around here. Particularly, I think Cyril has an understanding or a history with Andoran, who is the master at arms of McNair household. They're kind of... He's a little bit older than him, but they've probably sparred before and tested their steel against one another in the past. And not too far from Cicero is someone that you probably don't recognize, but it's Kaylee, freshly bathed looking teenage girl, who's wearing probably her like best dress, which is this like hand spun kind of affair. And you kind of drink in the atmosphere of this feast as people are eating and drinking and making merry. So Roynard's eyes are just like popping out of his face right now. Wow. Isn't it amazing? Where do we start?
First, we must find our seat. And then we will need to pay homage to the master of the house. Can you spot him, boy?
He points right at Sir Brian, who's in the middle. That's him. That's Sir Brian. He is the head of the McNair household. Their symbol is that of a stoat on a green background, and their house words are, "We hold our home." He recites this from the many different knightly households that you have to learn as a squire.
Very good. Your training is going well. Now, watch and learn. And I approach Sir Brian. Greetings!
Yes, greetings, Sir Cyril. So honored to have you with us here tonight, with such fine company. Have you met my son, Cicero?
Cicero. It has been some time since we have met. You have grown some.
Thank you, Cicero. Cicero's interactions with Cicero, I'm assuming, have been interesting. So he takes this as much of a compliment as he can.
Indeed.
Have you found someone to wed yet in your age? You are getting on.
Father and I were just having a conversation this morning. We shall see what happens. But I appreciate your presence and your concern as to my marital decisions.
Very good. If your father were to pass the crown to you, or these lands to you, you will need to be able to field an army. It is best that you start to begin birthing children as soon as possible. The army will need them.
So Brian,
your advice is greatly appreciated, Sir Price.
Ever it is welcome, Sir Cyril. Your word is that of a seasoned veteran of many, many tales and adventures, I'm sure, and glad to see that your squire is still alive.
He is, to some degree.
I am.
He did fall off his horse multiple times on the ride, but with every fall he did learn something. Is that not true, boy?
Oh, yes, Sir Cyril. Let's learn like 10 things now. Most of them about straps.
Straps are very important. Not only do they keep our saddle to the horse, but our armor to our body.
Wiser words never said, Sir Cyril. Well, enjoy yourself here. I see that you've already met a newcomer to our household. Septon Birch, you're probably not far behind Sir Cyril and Squire Roynard at this point. Septon Birch, welcome to our feast.
My lord, thank you so much for the invitation. And he will kind of look over towards Cicero and just a little nod of his head. Young lord,
It's a pleasure to see you again, Septon Birch.
Not too
been,
much of a pleasure, though, I'm sure. For the old gods do still bless these lands. Is that not true, Sir Cyril?
That is very
Father.
true.
And it's a big kind of stamping of mugs and around, and a toast raised to the old gods here pretty swiftly as soon as Brian mentions it.
Birch will
Cicero
like look
gives,
around at
Sir
this
Birch,
giant. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he gives him just a slight wink as he says that over his father's shoulder.
Birch looking around, just being surrounded by people raising their glasses to his complete failure to convert any of them so far, and just, yes, the old gods are strong up here. Yes, that's his sure thing.
Quite.
And
Well,
just
your
kind of-
presence is nonetheless. He thinks about welcomed and then interesting. Nonetheless, to learn of the ways of the soft-bellied Southerners, and it's good to know that the North still holds its power.
It has been an honor to be your guest here, and I appreciate the safety granted. And he makes sure he hits safety hard, because that's about the only thing that's been granted to him during his stay here. Is no one has straight up stabbed him or come and sacked his sept yet.
Yeah. We are men and women of honor here, Septon Birch. None
Of course.
so harm will come to you while you are in our stead. Now, seat yourself, and perhaps with the flowing of wine and ale, you too will feel the old gods flowing through your spirit.
May the gods bless us. And walks away.
Yes. So at this point, as everyone kind of becomes seated, Sir Brian is anxiously awaiting the arrival of Sir Benjamin Stark. Actually, in fact, he's not a Sir anymore. He actually forsook all titles when he became a member of the Night's Watch. But nonetheless, he is a Stark, and a Stark rules in Winterfell. And a rider comes in, freshly off the horse. You hear cantering outside, jumps off, rushes in, and says, "There, Sir Brian, they're here." And with a kind of blowing of a horn, new members enter the McNair Hall, which is the call that Benjamin Stark and his retinue of the Night's Watch have entered your territories. And everyone kind of sits up, expectantly for a moment, and sort of puts down their mugs of ale, awaiting Stark's arrival. And Sir Brian says, "Sir Cyril, take a place here at my side." And he kind of puts you between Cicero and Kaylee.
I stand up and I take the seat that he's offered
Yeah.
me.
Sir Roynard goes to do his squirely duties, which are to fetch you wine and to make sure that wine and ale is never out of your reach, along with food as well. This is very much a medieval times moment right now, where you guys are all eating and drinking bare hand, and Sir Squire Roynard is the serfs that come round to serve you. But there's that expectant sort of intake of breath as they await the expected entrance of Benjamin Stark. And he makes quite the entrance himself. Throws open the doors to the hall Aragorn style. And the long locks of Benjamin Stark's hair, with several other members of the Night's Watch, the heavy black cloaks, set them apart from the green and gold heraldry of the McNairs, which is quite vibrant and spring-like. These guys just speak of death, and they look like they've been in a frozen place for a very long time. Most of them look to be older, seasoned members of the Night's Watch. There is one young lad with them who looks to be more around sort of Kaylee's age, I suppose, or a teenager. But keep in mind, in our world, you're a man when you're 13, so would still be considered to be a man. But Sir Brian stands, raises his glass to Benjamin Stark and says, "Welcome, Benjamin Stark and the Night's Watch, into the halls of us McNairs." we greet you with ale in one hand and food in the other, and hope that our business together can be amenable and friendly. And Benjamin nods and kind of, actually a little bow towards him, says, Sir McNair, it's an honor for me and my lads to be with you here today, and to take part in something which is a little bit more warm by your hearth than the wall has been. It's been a long time. And he comes in and they clasp, and the other members of the Night's Watch sort of settle into the groove of the party as it begins to, people strike up conversations once again. But these 5 members, including Devon Rain, who's with us here, of course, are slightly apart from the rest. They are outliers in every meaning of the word, including at this place here, because they're not really guests in that same way, and there's that knowledge that maybe they murdered people, or maybe they're thieves, or they could be bad people. But Benjamin Stark's recognized as a nice chap, and he takes a seat near to Sir Brian. So let's cut to Devon. Devon, what are you doing at this point?
Devon is just taking this all in. His eyes are wide, and he's just looking and staring, particularly at Sir Brian and at Cicero. And then just will try and shift his attention elsewhere and see who else is here. But he's just kind of in awe right now.
Mm-hmm. What about Kaylee? At this point, she's like next to Cicero, pretty close to Septon Birch and therefore Cyril as well. What is she making of this? And what is she doing if she's up to something?
I think she's just sort of enjoying her time, just sort of drinking and making silly faces at Cicero and making common chatter. But I think as Cyril came and sat, I feel like is he next to her? Is that how we're in?
Yeah. You guys are.
I'm trying to think of how we're sat.
So you guys are next to one another.
Just kind of looks down as he looks and looks at his legs and his boots, and I like your boots. Those are quite nice. Get those made locally. Where? Like the toll. Must be warm. Is there fur inside of those?
That's just a Cyril?
No, to Cyril. Sorry, not Cicero. Cyril.
Oh, I thought you said Cicero.
Gotcha. Look at similar names. This is all good.
No, I had these made by my own hands. To certain specifications. They're watertight.
Oh, really? Interesting. I never thought about trying to make boots watertight before. Everything's sort of just frozen, but I suppose it's quite handy. And she just sort of looks awkwardly at the rest of the people at the table, sort of feeling, I guess, like the little kid mm-hmm. next to this large knight.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Cicero's probably someone of reputation, if not legend. But he's certainly known around these parts and strikes an intimidating, pose at the table. He's certainly taller than everyone else, perhaps due somewhat to his really tall boots that are assisting him in that leverage. But Benjamin is speaking privately to Sir Brian, and they seem deep in a conversation. Sir Brian then turns and whispers to you, Cicero, and says, "Boy, I want you to handle this one. This is the kind of thing you're going to be dealing with all the time if you're the Lord." And he kind of puts a hand on your shoulder, and he kind of spots someone in the pie. He's like, yes, I must, and he's off. And Benjamin turns towards you. So, Cicero, was it?
Aye, that'd be my name.
Well, do you know why I'm here?
I can hazard a guess. Sir Benjamin. Night's Watch has always found new recruits here.
true enough. Your father has been very generous to our Night's Watch in the past, and if you are to be the future ruler of this household, I would like to have a similar relationship as well. Now, a wall, we protect everyone up there, and we're undermanned, understaffed, undertrained, under-equipped. So I come round back to the north and to do whatever business my brother wants me to recruit any of those that wish to either take up the black or any bandits, thieves, beggars, and the like that you want rounded up and taken back.
I believe plenty of those here if you're looking for a bit of a challenge to get them. But I assure you that we will provide you with as many men as we can, as long as we are able to hold our home with the few that remain. How many men have you taken in the past?
Depends on the how bad the banditry's been and how successful Andoran over there has been. But anywhere from 10 to 50.
Hey, need a lot more to protect the wall.
It's a communal
See
effort.
you even.
We all put in a little bit, right? Everyone's got some waste that they need thrown away, and the wall's a nice place to put it.
I believe so. I see you even recruit some younger members, and he nods in Devrin's direction.
Yeah, he
How
kind
old
of
do you
clears his
reckon that
throat.
is?
Oh, well, they come of all ages. There's no want for criminals in Westeros. And the wall is a better alternative and a noble cause as well. The death or taking a hand. It's better this way.
Very right there. Cicero kind of stiffens and extends his hand to Sir Benjamin and clasps it in the formal way and just says, "I hope to maintain the relationship that my father's had with you. There are many tales of your fairness and your willingness to uphold justice in this realm. And it's greatly appreciated by a household such as ours."
He nods, having an understanding of the history of the McNair household, and clasps it back and says, "It's good to know. Well, we should get to enjoying ourselves. Feasting shouldn't just be about business. Now that's out of the way, let's have some drinks, and I think..." And he points over to your father, who's like beckoning you over, and there's this young sort of noble lady in like this fine dress who he's talking to, and your father's like, over here. I think your father has need of you."
Do excuse me, Sir Benjamin. It was a pleasure talking with you. Cicero heads over to where his father is.
Go get him.
Devrin's sort of gonna follow a little bit to keep an eye on these lovely ladies that have come in.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, they do.
And also, on Cicero and get a sense of him.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Certainly, the ladies here, there are about 3 or 4 of them, and they're from minor households similar to your own in the same region, which is the sort of mountainous, craggy region, which extends basically towards the New Gift, if we're looking on the Quartermeister map, and heads down to kind of Deepwood Mott and Last Half for its boundaries. So pretty much just that sort of nook of mountains and forests where we find ourselves in this region. And you would probably recognize a couple of these ladies. One of them is Lady Lania Harclay. The Harclays are a family that live fairly far out, but have a fairly good reputation of being kind and fair. They're pretty insignificant when it comes to most like regional political affairs, but that's fine. And you would probably know fairly well Lady Janice Boatwright. The Boatwrights are the family that live in a land between you and the Blackwoods, who are the kind of rival family. and they are the sort of ultimate peacekeepers and traders, and they make a hell of a lot of money from working between both sides of this sort of feud which has been going on over the past few decades. And so Brian says, good, Cicero. I was just telling Lady Janice Boatwright here about your interests in the lumber trade. Is that right? And she's kind of like a mousy faced girl with brown hair, with this nice dress on. It's not like silk or anything. It's clearly hand spun as well. But she kind of smiles at you. Clearly, she probably doesn't know much about the lumber trade or has any interest in it either, which she signals to you with her eyes as well on a somewhat desperate look.
Cicero takes her hand and gives her like a customary kiss on the hand and says, "It's a pleasure to meet you, my lady. The lumber trade is certainly of great interest to me, but as I was talking with Sir Benjamin, parties are more for pleasure than business."
So Brian kind of shoots you the ghost of a wink and says, yes, fun must be had at such deals, and there are many ways more than just business talks to strengthen the ties of family in this region. And he smiles with a long, lasting look, which is marriage. Marry for more is what the look on his face says to you, and he kind of smiles. Yes, and he's off again to someone else.
Devin can't help it, but a little bit of a smile creeps across my face. Just a little bit of a snicker, a little bit of a smirk to see Cicero put in this situation.
Yeah, Cicero turns back to this lady and just is kind of at a loss for what to even say, and just sort of stumbles through a sentence. And
yeah, she kind of lumber is a thing. I think our families trade in that.
Yes, the lumber trade is always profitable. Yes, just kind of falls silent and just like looks very confused.
Does Devon say that?
Yeah.
Is that like audible to them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she kind of like shoots a glance over. Isn't that? She whispers towards Cicero. Isn't that one of the Night's Watch? That could be a murderer.
No,
Cicero turns to Devrin. Says, "You, lad, come here."
Yes. I walk over. You notice that I'm not quite light on my feet. There's a little, just a hint of an uneven gait as I walk over.
Cicero looks to Sir Benjamin as he talks to you. "You're one of the youngest ones here." Sir Benjamin says that all types of lads, men enlist in the Night's Watch. How old did you say you were?
16, sir.
16. Sister should be about your age. I think you'd like her. Has an adventurous spirit that the wall would probably interest her. How goes your watch?
Probably want to.
Women are not allowed at the wall, sir.
Of course not. So how goes your watch?
Cold, sir. Not accustomed to the weather there. From a warmer climate.
Aye. Aye. This lady here has given me the privilege of her company. But you seem like you wanted to be a part of the conversation.
Well, you were discussing lumber, so Who
I don't
wouldn't?
think my father would like me to be involved in members of the Night's Watch.
We serve with honor.
Cicero kind of turns back to her and
Well,
says, "They're
only
just
because you were so dishonorable before.
Milady, you are making assumptions about me and my brothers without knowing us.
My father's told me all about the Night's Watch, and, well, I've heard the stories.
Cicero
Some
kind
stories.
of puts his hand up and just says, "Don't worry, my lady. If he should get out of hand, I've got this." And he kind of pulls his arm back and pulls the cape with it to expose the new sword that he's been given.
You can just kind of
Oh.
A wink towards Devrin.
Are you carrying steel now, my lord? I mean, it would appear you are, so... Well done.
This is much.
perhaps this
Do you know how
would
to
be an
use that
opportunity to prove the valor of the Night's Watch. And what better way for you and Cicero, she looks towards Cicero, to prove your valor than to bestless ruffian who so dishonored me.
Ah, milady, this is a dinner. This is not a spectacle.
I saw
And
some
it
training
would
demos
be
outside.
dishonorable should I cause a ruckus.
She looks at
Ruckus would be
Cicero like,
most
are you really
unwelcome.
going to let her talk to me that way? This is the look she gives you. Oh, sorry, are you really going to let him talk to you that way?
A ruckus would be most unwelcome. Let there not be any further disrespect. There won't be a need for one,
My apologies,
lady.
milady, my lord.
Kaylee's been watching
And
this from afar across the room, and is like, as things like start to seem a bit like tense, like she's kind of like sauntered up in her little way with her canter and sort of elbows Cicero in the ridge and is like, surely perhaps maybe tomorrow you could have a bit of a spar. Can't let yourself be bested.
Is this...
What do you say, Cicero?
Who is this?
Kaylee looks at the lady and sort of like, oh, my lady, hello. No, I'm Kaylee. Just a feeble blacksmith daughter. No need to worry of me.
Oh, blacksmith. That's so hands-on.
Oh yes, very good with my hands. She sort of winks at Devrin.
So
Devin
down
winks
to
back.
earth.
So what did you say? I was away with the fairies, as it were. My lady.
Oh, nothing. Cicero, you know this woman?
Aye, he's a good friend. Very talented blacksmith. I suppose befriending the tradesman is a very good way to get good work out of them.
Oh, we're going to have to
Also
change
makes
that.
for good company.
I'm lady of this hall. I don't expect to be having conversations like this with the smaller folk.
Well, I suppose it does get a little bit boring, at least, talking about lumber trades with the nobles of the hall.
Well, yes, but there are finer things to life to consider as well.
But
Fashion
tell me, my
of
lady,
King's
what
Landing. For
what is it that you spend your time doing then? If you
Are
the
not
fine things and the number, and us poor folk don't quite understand. You know, I've heard tale that your needlework must be just splendid. So perhaps you were quite also skilled with your hands.
I myself did not spin this weave together. No, I have handmaidens to do that. No, I spend my time immersing myself in the history of our lands and learning of the politics both of King's Landing and that of Winterfell. These are not things that I expect you to be even remotely aware of. I'm sure you're far too busy doing blacksmithing.
Of course, I would never imagine learning to read or goodness, picking up a book. What do you think, sister? You'd have a good laugh at that, wouldn't you? She like takes a big swig. She's obviously like had a little bit more to drink than she should.
she's like at a party and getting shit faced. Yeah.
I disdain picking them up myself sometimes. But it's the duty of a noble to partake in such enthralling subjects. And this sarcasm is just dripping out of his mouth. He's made it quite clear that he's not fond of this lady's willingness to just look down on people.
Right. She's like, you do know your own family history, don't you, Cicero?
Know it well. Keep it close.
Well, if I were you, and again, when I'm lady of this hall, we're going to have to do a lot to shape up your appearance. It's a little
at this like in mid conversation. She just sort of like
common.
steps forward and she's like, "When are you engaged to be married already?" Anyway, we just spoke earlier about what your
Sir
father's
Brian
plans.
made it very clear with my father, Sir Garon, that that is what tonight's festivities were about.
Her eyes sort of get big, and she sort of like straightens herself up again and takes another drink. And well, then congratulations are in order, Cicero. Be finally a husband, though. Perhaps I'd have expected you to find one with a bit bigger bosom, as you know. She sort of like kind of looks at the woman again, takes another drink and walks away back to her seat.
How quaint.
If the lady tries to walk away, Devon will trip her.
Oh, she's staying with Cicero right now. She's kind of like latched herself into the arm and doesn't appear to look like she's going to move unless she is dislodged like some kind of pick. But yes, Lady Boatwright is pretty certain, it would seem, Cicero, that you and she will be betrothed, perhaps by the end of tonight. This is what this occasion is. So we're going to have to shape up your somewhat common appearance and make this house be known as more noble. After all, if you want to make any kind of impression on the Blackwoods and have any kind of fight in you whatsoever, then that war will not be won on the battlefield, my friend.
You say shaping up my appearance. I thought it looked right nice. Got all dressed up for this evening.
There's a certain rugged handsomeness to you, I suppose.
Thank you for that, my lady. If it is true that we are to be betrothed, I suppose we'll both have some adjusting to do.
Indeed. She kind of looks around this place like it's a pile of dirt. Well, can't win them all. And an uneasy silence falls.
Right, you'll excuse me. I should go speak with my father about the wedding arrangements, don't you think? Cicero kind of
indeed.
pries himself away from her and goes to wherever Sir Brian is, giving a nod to Devon as he leaves.
Devon kind of toasts him with a lucky you kind of face and takes a swig.
So you go back to Sir Brian, who's currently having a conversation with Sir Cyril, and is like, and that's what we're going to need to do about the banditry in this area. So Cyril, when I'm dead and gone, you're going to be Oh, Cicero! Just the man. How is she?
I don't know if she's the best fit, but a worthy contender nonetheless. She spoke of marriage.
Is her appearance not pleasing to you? So, Cyril, I would say she is a fine woman.
Yes, she's very well endowed. But I was,
Sturdy hips.
a whole issue with...
Good for children.
Yes. Of course, father, of course. I'm not so sure if I'm, completely sold on her yet. Perhaps if we could take a little bit more time to figure out, whether or not she'd be a good fit in a McNair household.
As you mentioned, a second opinion would be a good idea. So, Cyril, what say you on this matter?
What dowry does she bring?
Oh, quite the bounty. The Boatwrights are a wealthy family, and they can secure us trade agreements and perhaps be able to renegotiate those that we have currently with the Blackwood household.
Very well. With good trade, birthing hips, and a dowry intact, I would say she would be the wisest choice. You are getting on in years, and this would strengthen your households. Do what is best for your people.
Sage advice, Sir Cyril. How can you argue with that, Cicero?
I can argue by saying I don't think she is what's best for this people. But we shall see. She might learn to be a bit more appreciative of our ways.
Do you think she would birth nothing but girls? Is that why she's not good for your people?
No, it is hard to say at this point in time, but that is a potential factor.
Something to keep in mind then, moving forwards, but there are ways. Old Josie knows the ways. She can help you.
You should consult the old gods. They might be able to grant foresight on the matter. But time is of the essence.
Yes, indeed. Perhaps you should do as myself and your mother did, and that was to conceive at the gods would. Not only is your passion entwined together, but it goes with the gods as well and grants you good fortune. I think it's relatively empty, but of course we must wait until the wedding before any of those types of arrangements can be seen to. But good
when
thinking,
shall the
sister.
wedding be?
I'd say as soon as possible. As soon as we're betrothed, we can make the arrangements. I already have a few plans. I think it would be nice to have a wedding in good weather.
Yes, absolutely. Good, clear weather. It must be dry.
Right.
Well, given that you've been wanting me to take on such responsibility, Father, I'd like to have some say in this as well.
Of course, yes. If you can find another suitable woman to take, then you would have my blessing, depending on who she was and the dowry she came with, of course.
Very well. Begin my search promptly.
He nods,
kind
and about at this point, with you having this conversation with Sir Brian and Sir Cyril, you see that the doors are cast open once again, and there is something of a murmur and a disquiet enters the otherwise jovial room as the bard stops playing, as a new group of visitors enter the feasting hall. Now, the first person to step in is clad in a breastplate and hauberk of clearly knightly status. This is like a heavy breastplate, and is wearing steel as well, as a sword at his hip, which is a bit of a faux pas if you're not the hosts of this event. Or at the very least, you should set it up against the wall on the iron hooks that would be on the side of these walls. You would recognize the heraldry immediately of the black and white, the white background with the black tree on it immediately. It's kind of black withered tree of the Blackwood family. Now, these are, of course, your rival household who have you under the thumb. And this is clearly from interactions that you've had in the past. Sir Michael Blackwood, the young lordling and heir to the Blackwood estate and throne. With him are flanked 4 fairly thuggish-looking individuals who stink of ale, and they've swaggered into this place because, I mean, technically they wouldn't. Their garrison wouldn't have been able to refute their entrance, and they have enough clout to make it in here. And they've kind of swaggered in, and Michael has this kind of shock of white hair and pale blue eyes, and a calculating look of someone who's prepared to do some fairly bad things. He steps in and kicks across a glass, a mug which has been on the floor, and it rolls towards Sir Brian and kind of lands at his feet and says, "Lord McNair, such a pleasure to be invited to this fine feast today. To have so many fine guests with you as well." He looks over at Benjamin Stark and the other members of the Night's Watch, praises Sir Cyril briefly, and even Lady Boatwright, who's with you. "Strange it was then when we found ourselves riding not far from your lands, and we heard of this feast to find ourselves not invited to such an event. Now," and so Brian's like, and he kind of like cuts him off with like the signal of a hand. "Such great dishonor upon my name, upon my family's name, has been done to us. A grievous wound upon the Blackwood household. But we come with instead then an offer of friendship and an invitation of our own. You see, next week we will be holding a tournament at Blackwood Hall, and we would so very love for you to bring your finest and your greatest champions to test your mettle against our own, and perhaps to redeem the slur upon our name which you have done by not inviting us to such a feast. I challenge you all," and he takes off a gauntlet to reveal a finely gloved black hand underneath. And he throws down the gauntlet. "To best me and the other Blackwoods in our banner houses, to whatever duels or combat you would see fit. Now, I can't wait for you all to be there, and I do so very hope that you don't do me the dishonor not attending. It's been a pleasure." And he kicks the gauntlet further across the hall as the silence falls upon McNair Hall, and he turns with a quick leer towards Cicero as a clear challenge to "I'll be seeing you soon," and steps out of the hall with his lackeys. There's several moments silence after that, and Sir Brian stands and says, "Get back to the feast." And the bard starts playing again, which is the signal to pretend that things are okay again. But the mood has palpably dropped in McNair Hall at this point. Who's doing what?
All of the color has drained out of Devon's face, and he's just shaking. Just completely reacting in a very strange way to this.
Mm-hmm. Benjamin Stark kind of stands and says his farewells, and sort of makes an excuse because now the Night's Watch are a sort of third independent party that don't need to get involved in any like inter-house politics. So this is pretty much his cue to leave. So Benjamin stands, says his farewells to Sir Brian and to you, Cicero, and nods towards the members of the Night's Watch to come with him. He'll like briefly step in to be close enough to confide in you, Devon, and says, "Choice is yours, lad. You can come with me if you want. You can stay."
I'll stay.
All right, then. Farewell. Our paths are never likely to cross again. And good luck.
Thank you for your kindness, sir.
He nods, clasps your arms again,
I clasp back.
and he and the rest of the Night's Watch leave. So you're the only member of
she's
the
just drunkard.
Go ahead.
She's kind of just like mumbling,
drunk.
like she's like talking, like mumbling, like under, like probably like leaning over to Cyril, like even if he's not paying any attention, and she's like rambling about, you know, like women and weak and sewing and swords and just sort of just going on about, and that's just where she's just for her just drunken state of, she's clearly frustrated.
Yeah.
While
so
that
Brian-
jabbering's going on in Cyril's ear, he's thinking of a training regiment to put the Squire through, because the Squire will fight, because we will all fight, and about what other training things he could do for anyone who's partaking. As he's thinking the House Guard will probably need to train, and then if there are other people who have felt insulted by this, since it was more of an open challenge, he'll take them on too to start doing drills, and sort of looking over at Kaylee beside me, sort of just nodding every once in a while as to not be rude, but has no idea what she's saying.
Right. So
They were like, what use is a woman that all she does is sew? What use is anything in the north? It's what she can make some clothes so you're not warm. A wolf is going to come up and eat her. That's all it is. And just, you know, and then
Yes, training
like-
dummies. Lots of training dummies and sticks.
exactly.
That is what's
That's
going
just what I mean.
through his mind.
that's just all that's on his mind. He just does it. Yeah. So around this point, so Brian has clearly fallen into deep worry in his cup, and says, "Cyril, would you meet with me in private with some others? I think this is worthy of our discussion."
Yes, but of course.
Yes.
After you. Oh, wait, was that Cicero or Cyril?
Probably both.
I don't know. Okay.
The names are so close. I'm sorry.
We're gonna have to start saying Lord Cicero and Sir Cyril, which is the only way, the easiest way to distinguish the two. But yes, he would invite both of you to this conversation, which is basically in their private chamber behind the feasting hall. Sept and Birch, you're close enough, as is Kaylee and Devon, to overhear that this is taking place. And it doesn't look strict enough where if you were to tag along, they're going to tell you to to fuck off. But you haven't directly been invited. But it looks like retinue are coming. So it's like, Sir Cyril's Squire and a couple of followers are coming along to hear what's up, basically.
Sure. Even back when the oh, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Before we go, Cicero is gonna walk over to the gauntlet that was dropped by Michael, good old Michael, and he's gonna find the lady that he was talking with previously, bring it over to her, and says, "Would you give this to Sir Michael? I believe your house is still on good terms with his, and he's not going to be much good with only one hand."
She raised her eyebrow. So you intend to joust him then? For my honor?
Not for your honor, but I damn well do it for mine. Give your father my
dedicate
regards.
the victory to me? Do you even know how tournaments work?
He finds a glass of wine somewhere, just sitting on a table. Picks it up. I dedicate this toast to you. Kind of throws it up in the air and just takes it. Just drinks the whole thing, slams it down on the table.
Yeah, there's like a
Turns around and walks away.
from all of the members of the household. As like they've become aware of that this is happening, right? Like they're aware. Probably Sir Brian's told them that there's going to be a betrothal, like, and this is like a, oh look, not everything's bad, like the party's still happening, guys, you know, sort of moment when there's a toast. But yes, and then I'm sure you turn swiftly on one heel to to go and meet with your father and Sir Cyril. Haley, Septon Birch, Devon, are you guys tagging along with this conversation, or do you remain back in the hall?
No,
Oh, yeah.
I would want to know what's happening.
You want to know? Yeah. Yeah, Burge at this point, I mean, he was kind of taken aback by the Night's Watch coming in altogether and was like kind of making his face scarce, perhaps a little frightened by these rogues he's heard so much about. But then this inclusion too, after this has ended, there's just been like this look of shock on his face. And when they leave and this retinue begins to go as well, he just says, sort of to himself, but loud enough for anyone else to hear this, "I'm beginning to understand why no one else volunteered for the Northern Division. Well, nevertheless." And we'll follow along.
Nice. Haley's drunk enough to get swept up in this, I'm imagining, to like just to follow
Just, like,
Cicero.
stumbling, yeah. She's probably still mumbling to Cyril, like, just following the conversation. Just not really like, she's clearly like embarrassing herself, but doesn't know this.
Right.
The next day will be like,
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough. It's gonna be a rough morning. So you guys follow a beleaguered-looking Sir Brian into the private chamber, which is sort of like a Arthurian sort of round table situation, rather than like a long table where everyone is sitting along from each other. This room is more like a war chamber. We have just a big kind of stone table in the center with seats around it. Squires, Squire Roynard and other hand servants will bring in drinks and refreshments, and Sir Brian will take a seat and bids that everyone else does, or if there's not a seat, just stand, and says, "Friends and trusted advisors, we need to do something about this. I would love to hear your feelings towards the challenge that Lord Michael has just set out to us. And if there are any actions which we feel that we can take, my immediate feeling is that we cannot refute this challenge. Such an act would be a great dishonor to both us and to them, and cause for further disagreements between our two families. I think we have to send some people as champions to show us the honor of the McNairs. Son," and he looks towards Cicero, like, with a look in his eyes, which is, this is the first real test. "What say you?" Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Okay. Doesn't appear we have much of a choice. Father, you'll have to stay here. But I know that I'm expected to go. There needs to be a McNair in the hall. For cereal?
He knows.
Be up for a fight?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. A challenge like this cannot be turned down. Although the outcome will probably be also equally unfavorable if we are to win as if we are to lose. We must show good face. We will need training regiments with both the House Guard and myself to try and get as many able-bodied men and women in fighting form to field the best chances and odds of at least showing well. We will need at least 2 champions that we can bet on. I will put myself as one of them. My Squire! Squire! Call for the Squire.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You will also be fighting within the tournament. Prepare yourself. We need everyone to be prepared. There is no time to waste. Training must begin immediately, upon the break of day. Provided
Brian.
it is not raining.
True enough. Wise words, Sir Cyril, and we thank you for your counsel in such times. Andoran kind of speaks up and says, I don't like that them Blackwoods were just patrolling along our border with their cavalry, snooping into our woods onto our lands without us seeing so. I don't like that they just strolled up in here, had the audacity to walk right in when they weren't fucking invited. And Brian's sort of like, now, Andoran, we all feel those same concerns, and it is true that their soldiers should not be so close to our lands. That is something to worry about, certainly, but the matter at hand is this: we must send champions. Now, son, you are as good a swordsman as I ever was in my youth. Are you as good a rider? Well, a joust is where the true honor is to be had.
I've had pleasure on my rides through villages on horseback. Now it seems we have to get down to business. Sir, I'm sure some training will do me well. Cyril, I'll seek your counsel on that. He turns to Devon. How good are you with a sword, boy?
I'm decent. Not particularly trained with the weapons, sir. They trained me more with the books, sir. But I would not trust them, sir.
You can at least carry an extra weapon, and we'll need that. We'll need someone to fix them. As he turns to Kaylee, who... What state is she in at this point?
She's like much more like calmed now, like listening to everyone, and it's much more of like a quiet environment. No longer
It's a
like
sobering
rambling.
experience, yeah.
Yeah. And so she steps forward, obviously at the mention of like fixing, but also like setting, like kind of looks around and sets her drink on like a footstool that's like off to the side, puts herself off. I can also carry a sword as well as repair them. This row.
Yes, I know that very well. They just come in handy.
Best of the girl not
Can't be
enter
sure.
the melee for fear of dishonoring our family any further. Fix the swords, girl, as your father does, and you'll do fine. That I will allow. As for this one, towards Devon, the choice is yours, Cicero. This is your remit. I won't stop you.
I seek a few extra members more for protection in case of deception on the part of the Blackwood household. I suppose we'll need the help of the gods, both old and new, whatever we can get.
And Birch will speak up here.
So Brian does not
Birch-
like this idea. It's just like going towards
Birch will speak up here at least and say the Sept seed overseen many a tournament landed. if you do not listen to my advice on the worlds beyond, listen to my experience in this one. Please. The young lord has never been to a proper tournament. He may need some advice. I can at least help with that.
Fair enough. That I will allow, Septon Birch, so be sure to know that we are representing the old gods at this tournament, but knowledge of the tournament itself is something which my son may not yet possess. There are several stages of combat that can be tested, which you may enter into, as will Sir Cyril. There is, of course, a grand melee, where some victories can be achieved. One must, of course, be a knight to enter into any of these, so perhaps at this event others would be allowed to enter by the Blackwoods. Then, of course, there is the archery competition. This, as well, is one of the minor events, but is still looked upon favorably by those who win it. There's some renown to be won, and trophies and gold as well. Most importantly, though, is a joust. This is where the true steel of the McNairs will be tested against those of the Blackwoods. Lords and ladies from all around will come to witness such an event, and whoever is the victor will be remembered for 100 years for the victory that they win there. Even for such a small tournament as this, word could reach back as far as King's Landing of such an event. A knight such as Sir Cyril would win great valor in the field of tournament for that. And of course, one must know one's opponent in these things. I have taken part in my youth in a few, and while it is the knowledge of how to use the lance, of how to use your sword that is important, better yet is the knowledge of the enemies that you will be facing. They all have their strengths, their weaknesses, these knights from around the areas, and those who are steeped in knowledge of tournaments and the history of this land will be able to tell you whom to face on the field of melee and who to strike your lance against. That is as, if not more, important than being able to ride true and hold your lance when the time comes. I trust this to you, son, and to you, Sir Cyril. Bring honor to our household. You have what means we have here at McNair Hall to whatever you need. And be careful as well. I do not trust those Blackwoods farther than I can throw them. And Michael is unhinged. He has dealt great personal grievances to this house that I would see brought to justice. It is late.
That is what we'll do.
And I tire. I leave this in your capable hands, Cicero. And he kind of leaves, handing over the burden of rulership to you. And there's an expectant room looking at Cicero.
Kind of surveys the room. Who all is here besides?
Pretty much the house retinue. So Andoran, the Master of Sword, is here. Probably Graham Tarbeck, who is Kaylee's father. A couple of other like sworn house swords, that kind of thing. Servants, squires, that kind of deal. And of course, the PCs.
Yeah, as he looks around the room, he just says, "My concern here is not the tournament. My concern is that Blackwood House has never played fair with us. This is more likely a trap than a just challenge. Should all be cautious. Take more men than we need for protection or escape, anything else." He turns to Sir Andoran and says, if you can round up any members of the Scouts, see what they can find out before we venture into their territory.
Hey.
We'll need a few members of the garrison. A few members of the garrison to accompany us on our journey.
As many as you need, Lord Cicero.
Whoever should shy away from this task, do so now, without any further consequence. It is not one I would gladly face. I feel I must. He just
Grim nods from the appointed servants, and as Andoran heads out, and he's like on it right now. You know, even though it's like gone midnight, he's going to round up any scouts he can and send them out to learn what they can. Which in itself isn't an aggressive act, but is, you know, a little bit sort of, you know, it's like you send your scouts into their territory, then completely deny that there were ever any scouts there, but both sides know that there were. There's kind of like, you know, oh, what's that Russian military vessel up in the sky? No, you know, both sides deny that it was ever really there, but like, it's an understanding that you're both scouting out each other's like territories at any time. So the scouts are sent out. That's pretty quick. It's like pretty late right now, so like getting to bed and like starting at crack of dawn is probably something which would on to Cyril's mind, because there's not much to be done right now that the plan's set in motion. So most of the servants filter out and just leave the 5 of you in here alone.
I reckon we should all get some sleep. Been a tiring evening.
Sleep would be advised. The next few days will be heavy in training. We'll be up at the crack of dawn, 3 meals a day, and constant fighting, riding, shooting. We must be as prepared as humanly possible. And with that, Sir Cyril sort of pushes back from the table, yells, "Boy!" for a squire to come over to him, and tells him, "Ready the horses. We ride now."
Now? Yes, sir. He fetches the horses.
And Sir Cyril sort of surveys the room, just gives a nod, and with quite a purposeful stride, just marches out of the room. Clearly, the tasks at hand are the only thing that's on his mind right now.
Awesome. Right out.
Kaylee, kind of like in her sobering moment, and she's slightly still stubborn, looks at Cicero's father, kind of makes just like a quick glance, and then looks over at Cicero, like wants to lock eye contact, and then turns and leaves without a word.
Birch approaches Cicero. Bit of a solemn look, but a serious look as well, and just says to him, "I know you think me a fool, but I hope you also think of me as a friend. I am with you through this." Kind of gives him a bit of a bow, and prepares to leave as well.
Alrighty. That's just...
And Valiant. Devon walks up to Cicero and says, "No." And she clasps hands with you and slips a small vial into your hand and walks off.
Cicero, being alone in the room, just kind of looks at the vial. What be in it?
Poison.
It smells pretty bad.
Good deal. He pockets it and prepares to head for his own chamber.
go straight to sleep, or does Cicero go anywhere else?
He'll probably wander back through the hall just as everyone's kind of probably leaving at this point after the sudden decline of the party.
Yeah, the party is definitely breaking up, and people are headed out fairly quickly. Is there anything anyone else would like to do this sort of evening night before dawn is coming?
Devrin has nightmares all night. And at one point you can hear screams coming from his room.
Yeah. I think Devrin is probably given a room in the just like outside the hall itself, in like the barracks, and probably Andoran would find some room for you there. Just like get into a bunk, maybe your own room, because you're from the Night's Watch and not exactly them. So yeah, they would throw you in there and let you get some rest, if that's what you chose. Anyone else, or are we good to sort of wake up the next morning with hangovers and new determination? Cool.
I'm good.
So, yeah. So, where is Sir Cyril riding to? Is he just like back down to his homestead, or is he just going? Yeah.
He would go back down to the homestead because he's going to try and make a training field in one of his fields in the morning.
Cool. Yeah, you've probably got one cleared and ready just in case there's ever any need to train people. There's probably you've probably been training Squire Roynid just in the field. You just made a whole field for him. Yeah, perfect. So we pick up the next morning. Unfortunately for Sir Cyril, it is a rainy day in the McNair lands today. It's got that kind of fine drizzle of gloom about the air, which matches the glum feeling of the people around McNair Hall. At this point, word has spread out to the people, and already mutterings and conversations on the street about how we're going to get beaten up by the Blackwoods again. They're the bullies of the McNairs, and the people don't really have a great deal of faith in like an away game at the at the Blackwood Hall. In your team, which is Sir Cyril and Sir Cicero. Cicero is unproven. Cyril is considered something of a wild card, and the Blackwoods have this sort of quite strict training regimen and are considered to be more knightly than the McNairs. So the atmosphere isn't one of we're the underdog, we're going to get them, like England in any sports event ever. It's more that we're going to get beaten up. It's going to be bad. Oh man, I'm we're worried about Cicero. Like, is he going to get is he going to come back alive? Disgrace, just bring even more dishonor to us. Like, we're already considered pieces of shit. Like, that's the mood probably Kaylee particularly and Septon Birch is picking up on just in the common areas of the McNair household is not feeling so good. Those staunchly loyal to the McNair household probably have no question in their minds whatsoever that the McNairs will do well, and that is the free people in the garrison who are Sir Brian, Andoran, and Cyril. Great. Presumably, you guys have agreed to meet at Sir Cyril's training field the next day, and Andoran, the Master at Arms, is bringing with him several fresh recruits and guardsmen who are going to come with you and accompany you to this event. So we'll pick up there. Kaylee and Septon Birch and Devrin are also there in attendance because they are now part of Cicero's retinue, which means anything that Cicero needs is kind of what you're there for, /bodyguarding, /advising. So yeah, Sarah, what does this field look like when the McNairs arrive? Probably in a force of around 50 or so.
Due to the rain, it would look very unfortunate. Cyril has not left the house, and it's been all left up to the instruction that the Squire has received from Cyril shouting it from a balcony that has an overhang which protects him from the rain. So, going back and forth, this field has become muddy There's about 5 training dummies that are somewhat vertical. There's a couple of bales of hay that have targets pinned to them for archery, but not nearly as well set up as it should be due to the rain.
Right.
The boy hasn't had time to go get help from the serfs in the little farming village because he's been too busy hearing the very specific but not clear orders that Cyril has been shouting from the balcony.
Right. Yeah, you can probably, as you guys are arriving, you hear the kind of yells of someone. You can quickly recognize to be Sir Cyril's loud, booming voice echoing across this field. And Sir Roynid just like completely bedraggled, his sandy hair, like just, just so wet. He's been out in the rain for so long, setting up these training dummies in the mud and the rain. And he kind of like waves over towards the group of you as you arrive, clinking in your armor, and says, "Oh, over here! Lord Cicero, over here!"
Cicero walks over to him and is just surveying this mess of a training field that's been set up. Right. It's just kind of like, all right, this is what we've got to work with.
Right. Right. So Roynid like approaches very quickly and eagerly, and is like, "Sir, Lord Cicero, it's a pleasure. Lord Sir Cicero has had me set up several of the training dummies, and I've got them ready. We might need a few more, but we're pretty much ready to go. Think about a quarter cold." A very sensitive immune system.
You best get inside and get warm. If you're to accompany us to Blackwood Lands, we'll
be training out here as well, Lord Cicero. I can't go back in. Isn't that right, Lord Cicero?
Boy, get the training swords.
Training swords, yes, sir. And he runs into like a barn and brings out this like huge stack of training swords that are way too much for him to carry. Like he falls over and they spill out into the yard. Training swords. Wood swords.
Cicero goes and picks one up and just kind of weighs it.
I lean over the balcony and watch Lord Cicero pick up a sword and, "Ah, well met, my lord. I see you have come on this most unpleasant of days."
Weather's not what's gonna be on our side. All we've got is our skills.
Yes, the weather is not on our side. The rain will weigh you down. It will make your footfalls less firm. You will slip and slide. These are not favorable conditions for us to fight. But nevertheless, you all must train. I will instruct you from this balcony.
Andoran like grumbles like something about never needing to be taught anything from this kind of guy. So Squire Roynid is like, yes, right, what do we do first, Sir Cyril?
Very well. The first thing that we will train first is sword combat with just the dummy. All of you, pick up training implements and find your own training dummy. We will begin moving our way through the 5 points of combat of attack, then defense. When you have mastered those, we will move on to partners.
Squire Roynid is loving this. Oh, he like starts sticking up more dummies for you.
How about it? Pick up the implements.
Who is training at this point as well? So is everyone going in on this? Is even Septim Birch in on this?
Birch is definitely more. He makes some comment that when someone gets injured, he can do more than just pray, and he will promise to take care of those who get wounds during the training. He's a little bit skilled at more than just calling on the gods.
Okay. Does Kaylee take up a training weapon?
I would think like after what was stated the night before, she's probably not going to just jump in to the training amongst everyone at this point and sort of like on the sidelines, kind of like begrudgingly like eyeing things and like almost like wistfully as well, like wishing, you know, to take part, but is more sober this day and not as like, I'm going to break all of the rules and jump into it. She's probably just on the side, like watching, picking some rocks.
Forlornly. Yeah, wanting to be a part of it. What about Devon then?
Devon absolutely will pick up a sword. That's what he does. May not be great with it, especially if it's a long sword. That's not quite. He's already gangly and doesn't have a lot of control, but he will absolutely do his best.
All right. So Cyril, how do you instruct them?
First, place your feet shoulder-width apart, your sword extending out in front of you from your sternum. Then, with your left foot, you will step forward, bringing your sword up over your shoulder, and you will strike towards your opponent's shoulder. This is the shoulder strike. Begin. And he instructs them to all move, and he presides over what I would assume would be varying levels of skill as they're trying to wield these unbalanced, not counterweighted pieces of timber that vaguely look like swords.
Right, absolutely. And Mr. Poggy's given our friend Lord Cicero a natural 20, which in the equivalent of this game is basically just a crit success, which means that on a roll, we'll do really, really well. So I imagine the training, we'd have to go into detail on every ounce of this training, but I imagine the training takes place over the course of the day, and Sir Cyril continues to boom up from above fairly relentlessly until he is satisfied that you have had a honest day's work in training. He feels satisfied that you have all learned something. So towards the evening, as the training practice finishes, and you throw up your swords and dummies and come back, with new bruises and welts all over your bodies and in your hands. Septimus and Kaylee presumably having found somewhere, dry to stay over. Maybe Kaylee joined in at some point when it looked like no one was really going to worry too much. Hey, and Dave giving the players a 20 tip on that is super kind. Thank you, Dave. Awesome. So,
Thank you.
I will throw that in there for you guys. And you basically just let me know when you would like to use one of your crit successes, and you can do so, and that'll be like a really good success on a roll.
And for Kaylee, I was going to say probably like towards the middle of the training, if the Squire is attempting to do, he doesn't seem like he's very skilled in much. She might become like frustrated with his like just lack and come forward and kind of have her own little moment where she's like, no, it's like this. No one's ever really paying attention to that part of the field, but she's still getting her like, it's just hard to watch.
Cool. So Cyril, do you take that well? Does Cyril take like constructive criticism?
Yes. He is probably of hearing at a distance to years of combat and deciding not to wear a helmet anymore. So he probably would not have detected any critique. Probably saw something going on and assumed it was, the Squire was messing up. There's more important people. He's the Squire as probably going to compete in an archery competition and probably will lose in whatever he's in. The chance of success would be low, kind of like a meat shield. He was in a large group battle, pushed the Squire forward first, and then flank around the side. So he's not too concerned that he's the best combatant out of the bunch that has come today.
Awesome. Yeah, so, you guys settled down, probably with some food and a fire, after a long day of hard training in the field. This is, as you guys are gathered around, it stopped raining, so Cicero can come out in the evening for around a campfire. When Andorin, the Master of Arms, this gruff-looking elder chap, he's been out having sent the scouts, and he comes to you with a somewhat grim look on his face. Bit of troubling news, my lord. I haven't received any words back from the scouts. They should have been back by now. Well, any of them.
Cicero, he's already kind of worn out from training, and it's just his demeanor visibly drops. There's Blackwoods there. They have something planned. I know it. Not fair of them to send scouts our way and then not expect us to send them some of ours. Either way.
Would you like me to saddle up some horses? We can go there for ourselves if you want, my lord.
I think the best course of action at this point is to keep the men that we have and prepare for the worst. I think that'll be what we're met with, likely.
He seems like uneasy at the idea of not going to see for himself what's happened. He's, something of a more brash kind of individual. Hey, that's all well and good, my lord, but what if they're in trouble and they need our help? Can I just let them be up to the whims of these Blackwoods? We need to show some kind of strength, wouldn't you say? Show them we're not afraid of them.
Blackwoods will expect a brash reaction from us. We need to show them his patience. That is what will win out over them.
Hey, patience is one thing, my lord, but if our scouts are off in their lands and aren't coming back again, I mean, that could be war. I've got friends in there.
War. War's coming either way.
Devon hears this and can't contain himself any longer and says, what they will do to them is so much worse. We need to get them now.
He looks a little confused, but agrees. Aye, that's what the lad says. They could be getting information from our scouts, my lord. I mean, I'm not suggesting we go in there swords drawn. I'm saying that we go in there and we just have a look around. Make sure that nothing's befallen our friends. We are invited to their lands after all.
Unlikely as it seems, Cicero takes Devron's counsel to heart. After a while of pushing his brow together, he says, very well. Second and third opinion. Second and third opinion seem to do me good.
Hey.
Whatever men you need, fight for their lands.
He nods and saddles up. Anyone wish to come with me? Feel free.
Lord Michael said the competition was to be in a week. I think he minded moving up the date a little bit.
It's not uncommon to feast in one's halls before a tournament. Also, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
Perhaps he could display some of the hospitality he was so keen for us to show to him.
We could bring him a wee gift.
That would certainly do him well.
Cyril moves uneasily on his seat. You do realize you have only trained in sword. There is still archery and the joust, which use considerable skill in order to best. Are you going to ride to these lands and just chance that you will be able to unseat one of their knights?
One day's
Lord,
training isn't going to do him any more good.
This implies that we're going to fight their way. We'll never win that way. She looks at Cicero.
That's right.
Andoran looks a little concerned by this. Hey, but we play fair by the rules of the tourney. Right?
We play by their rules, but there's no guarantee that they will.
Well, that's what sets us apart from them,
worst.
my lord. With
It
respect.
doesn't set us apart from death.
Something else to probably consider that we're not really spoken of yet is we've sent our scouts out. They've not come back. Our men are training here. And you send the rest of the able-bodied fighters out to find these scouts, and it leaves everything at home to be taken. What is it that they're not going to send their scouts in and just... It's as if taking like
ones and
berries
twos.
from a child.
They're not trained soldiers like myself and my men here. Cavalry in it. We're not going to go missing in the wee woods. We know them at the back of our hands.
But with everyone gone, what's going to be back home?
It's a garrison unit.
Perhaps.
Their hall will hold.
You don't need all of us here. Send a few more of them. Wouldn't that make more sense?
With respect, I'm not sure why I'm listening to this one, my lord.
Voice of the people should be taken into consideration, but granted that we'll all be going, I don't think even the Blackwoods would hazard a move so bold as to kill all of us.
Agreed. If they were to do that, they'd have all the major houses of the north down upon their heads. A stark cruise in Winterfell. Those days are long behind us. Come, if you're coming. We'll stay if you're staying. Either way, I'm not leaving my lads out there to die any longer. And Andoran and his sort of cavalry band are going to head out. And anyone that wishes to accompany him can feel free to.
Your title would keep them safe, Lord Cicero.
Devrin will lean over and whisper in Cicero's ear, "That was our home."
Cicero stands and goes to wherever he has his things and begins to tidy them up. Going with them. What I said before stands, and if you wish to stay, you'll face no consequence.
Haley stands and brushes off her pants, or the bottoms of her armor that she's wearing, and sort of follows over behind Cicero and adjusts the sword at her hip. Not gonna let you go alone, you know this. You hardly best me in a fight. What are you gonna do out there in the woods?
Be good to have a friend nearby.
Sir
Someone
Cyril
keep your head
stands
clear.
up, looks over to find his squire. Boy! Boy!
Yes, sir. Yes.
Ready the horses and my armor. find something for yourself as well.
Yes, sir.
Bird
Sets
stands
to
as
immediately.
Well, wouldn't be much of an advisor if I let you go off on your own, and not much of a friend. Young Lord understands Blackwoods aren't the only things out there, as he kind of points just to the darkness of the woods, now covered in rain. Mind your step.
Aye.
Devon takes the long sword that he's been fighting with and kind of throws it aside and sort of reaches to his hip and pulls out a stiletto and sort of spins it around his finger and goes, "Already." Clearly
Well then.
far more dangerous with a short blade.
We best mount up and ride. Arden's not one to be kept waiting. Mandarin.
Yes.
Lord Cicero.
Good.
Know this, though. The Blackwoods will use anything they can to claim that we are waging war. If we are to be finding scouts, we must be stealthy. Should we show force in number, they might try to turn the tides against us. Just know you are not fighting someone who has valor. And he walks away to his horse and starts putting its shield on his back, sword on his hip, climbs up, and waits.
Cicero does the same, mounts up on his horse and just kind of waits for everyone else to...
Yeah.
should be ready.
Squire Royned brings all of the horses that you guys could ever hope to need to travel into the woods, eastwards and out of the McNair lands and into the Blackwood lands. And as the contingent of characters ride after Andoran and his cavalry deep into the black forests of the Blackwood family, searching for some missing scouts. That's where we're going to end tonight's episode of Game of Thrones, War of the Roses, my friends. And holy moly, that's a way to kick things off. I think we got through quite the drama and intrigue and training and squiring throughout that episode. So if you guys in chat there enjoyed it, please do let us know. We're here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern playing the War of the Roses. So if you enjoy it, come along each time next week, and you can catch up on YouTube and shortly on podcast version as well. Stick around here. We're about to give away another set of Tabletop Loot dice. Thank you again, Tabletop Loot, for providing all of those dice for us. Oh, and we're like a couple of followers away from 25,000 by looks of things. So if any of you guys in chat haven't followed the show, hit that follow button, make it happen. Crazy things will happen. I don't even know what will happen. Nothing planned, but it will be cool and it will look pleasing in like a nice big round number, and we can all say yay together, and it will be good. But let's go around to cast and crew. Did we enjoy ourselves tonight? Hopefully we did. And of course, where can we find you wonderful people online? Let's go in reverse order. So let's start with Bird versus Plain. Bird, how was that, my friend?
I'm excited to be hated and reviled and not respected at all, but this time in a fantasy world. Seriously, thanks for putting up. Seriously, thanks for putting up with my really crappy internet tonight. I was a little quiet because mine was so spotty, and I'm gonna fix it because I want to fully engage with this story next time. I had so much fun. I'm Bird vs. Plain. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at that name. You can find me tomorrow on Unmade Gaming, Saturdays on Tall Squall's channel, and every Monday night here.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Looking forward to learning more about Lepton and his ways. Awesome. And we, of course, had perhaps my favorite dynamic duo of the game so far. Steel Rain, man, as Sir Cyril, a inspired performance, my friend. How was that game?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I've not really done any like D&D style roleplay in a long time. I'm a predominantly roleplay streamer on Twitch, on like within a video game, but not so much where it's just all talking and throwing dice and stuff like that. So it's good. It's good. It's different. Trying to pick up on cues that other people are doing about. Don't normally have to narrate what I want to do, and that's something that trying to keep more in mind of, paint the picture a little bit more. But it's a lot of fun. Did not think things were going this way today. I had no idea what was going to happen, but it's good. And if you want to find me, obviously on Twitch, SteelRain27, on Twitter, SteelRain27CDN, and I'm usually live Wednesday through Sundays on my own channel. Mondays for this campaign, of course, I'll be here, and I stream for long periods of time, so it's kind of easy to find me.
Awesome, fantastic stuff. I'm super looking forward to more of Sir Cyril. And in fact, during the course of that, within about 10 minutes, I got the artwork from Nicholas at Nivinter on Twitter, who does all of our artwork. And that'll be in for next week, so we can have a visual on Sir Cyril. And I'll send that to our group. Actually, I'll post it on Discord as well. So you guys in the Discord, if you're not in there, go along and I'll post it here in a second. Fantastic stuff. And Kitty, the amazingly awkward peasant, Kaylee, which I think was really the theme of today's game. Like, we're all like fairly awkward people trying to go through some grim, dark times, which I really enjoyed. Who is definitely not going to marry Cicero, at least in his father's eyes. How was that for you?
It was a lot of fun. It was interesting. Like, I love getting to settle into a new character and like figure out voices and really like find your place amongst the group. I love like an awkward aspect, obviously, like that uncomfortable silence and just like the really just then like coming in and just making, I don't know, just it adds like a fun fluff to the story. But we got a lot of story done today. I feel like there was a nice, like a really good like kickoff to what's going to happen. Yeah, so I'm Awkward Kitty Inc. I am a creative roleplay streamer. I've done a lot with that guy over there, Steel, in terms of roleplay. Been around for a while. I stream nearly 7 days a week, either doing creative or roleplay. You can check me out. You know, awesome. Make arts, and I like to do crazy voices and whatnot. On Twitter, everything is all Awkward Kitty Inc. Check me out if you like awkwardness, little kid roleplay, like
kitties and inks. Yeah.
Bananas are nice.
She's got it all. Yeah, the triumvirate of Twitch success. Amazing stuff. Definitely check them out. Awesome. And Joseph, holy moly, I threw a lot at you there today, as did Sir Brian. But took it all in your stride.
It's all good. Yeah, no, definitely one of the more intense first sessions I've had. Lots of decisions, but I guess that's what Cicero gets for being born first son. But you know, it's great to go through this, to learn this new system, and you guys are all such talented people. I couldn't ask for a better group to do this with. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to everyone in chat for your encouragement. It's been a great session. I'm looking forward to getting back to it next week.
Fantastic, awesome stuff. And if you guys want to win a set of dice from Tabletop Loot, press !loot into your keyboard within the next 1 minute and 43 seconds, and you may very well win yourself a set of awesome, sexy dice from the fantastic people at Tabletop Loot, who give us dice to give away to you guys every single damn session. Fantastic, Joseph. That was amazing fun. And I felt bad for putting so much pressure on Cicero to marry, but it was fun. And that's a Game of Thrones, man. Awesome. Dreamwisp, Jen, fantastic job tonight, as well as Devon. We really got to see a little bit more about that character and had a very fun introduction to Devon.
Thanks. Yeah, no, this was awesome. It's such a great group and fantastic world, and it's a blast. I mean, it's such a different tone from most of the games I play, and it's a real treat to get to play something that's heavier and darker. yeah, and you can find me on Twitter. I'm at DreamWisp. On Twitch, I'm DreamWispJen. And then in the real world, I'm producing your quality television. So that's where I am most of the time. Yeah. But thank you guys so much. This was amazing. This is such a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we've got 20 seconds left on this giveaway before you guys get a giveaway. So tomorrow, I'll talk to you guys about what's tomorrow. Oh, shit, we're like one follower away as well from 25k. So someone's liking this. I can do it. But tomorrow is Tuesday, which means at 5 p.m. Eastern, we're doing Vampire the Masquerade, working with White Wolf Publishing on this one. It's going to be so much fun. Laugh Love Lindy is in the storyteller seat, and we have a fantastic cast and crew joining us. Laura Lania, Christina Ariel, Little Cup of Joe, myself, and Encounter Josh. We'll be up in some vampire makeup tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for our Session Zero, our premiere of that new campaign, Carnival of Blood. So definitely join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're here gaming pretty much every day on Encounter Roleplay. It's great, a lot of fun, different tabletop memes, and that's 25,000. We can all say yay on a count of 3. Yay! 1, 2, 3. Yay! Yay! Amazing! Yay! Woo! Yeah!
We've done it.
Fantastic stuff. Woo! Great stuff. That's awesome. And we're going to go host and raid a friend of mine. In fact, let me catch the winner of the giveaway is the real Dave MG. Congratulations, Dave. You just won yourself a set of tabletop loot dice. Congratulations, buddy. Thank you for supporting the stream. But yes, we're going to go host and raid a friend of mine. It's absolute nepotism. It's my girlfriend, Sydney. She's streaming right now on World of Warcraft. So go over, send the love of Encounter Roleplay her way, and go follow her on her channel, because it's some fun times. In fact, I think I'm going to go over there and play games with her, so you can see me there as well. Congrats, you guys. Fantastic fun to this cast and crew. Holy moly, that was great. And until next time, try not to roll too many net ones, because we want to be here laughing when you do. Good night, everybody. Bye. Bye. Yay.